Hey, what's up, nerds? Paul Conti's back with another examination of the Blades of Corn. Games Workshop, in the great summer of 40K 8th edition, has thrown us a bone and given us Khorgos Khul and Vandus Hammerhand, the two frequently named characters in the lore of Age of Sigmar, and they were basically implied to be the Mighty Lord of Corn and the Lord Celestant previously. We just didn't actually have them as named characters. So what has Games Workshop done? Given us War Scrolls to use those same models as special characters. Um, Personally, I'm a little bit unhappy that we just didn't get new models for these as well. Um, I would consider converting up a better Khorgos Call, make him more interesting looking out of a Mighty Lord of Corn. Um, that is, if I'm even going to play with him. And we're going to get into that right now. So first, we're going to look at the Mighty Lord of Corn, which is really like the basis of Khorgos Call. Because this was effectively Khorgos Call before, just without the name slapped on him. So he was 140 points. 3 attacks, 3 up, rend 1, d3 damage on his axe. Fleshhound, 4 attacks, 3 up, 4 up, 1 damage. He can unbind like a wizard from the collar on the Fleshhound. The reality splitting axe ability, if he wounds a model but doesn't kill it on a 5 up, it removes the model. And then his command ability gives up to 3 units plus himself the ability to roll 3 dice and take the 2 highest when charging, which is basically the old Swift Stride rule, which is not a bad command ability. Overall, I've always thought the Mighty Lord of Corn was a little bit underwhelming at 140 points. Just looking at, you know, comparisons to other things that we have in even just Corn Bloodbound, not even looking beyond Corn Bloodbound. A Lord of Corn on a Juggernaut is also 140 points for comparable stats, more wounds, pretty arguably easily a better command ability, and probably I would say comparable power level on other abilities for the same points. And it moves more and does impact hits instead of the reality splitting axe. And I would say in general, I would rather take a Mighty Lord of Corn on a Juggernaut as my general instead of a Mighty Lord of Corn. But that's just sort of our baseline. I think this guy is underwhelming at 140 points. I think he probably should be like 120. Then it's a little bit more of a competition for slots. As it currently stands, I just don't see myself actually playing this guy that much. I haven't really played with him at all, nor do I really plan to unless he's going to get a points change. And since we just got a Blades of Corn book, I don't think we're going to get a points change for him when we do get the General's Handbook too. So anyway, moving on from the Mighty Lord of Corn, we get Khorgos Khul, who has the exact same stats. Same 5-inch move, same 3-up save, same bravery 9, same 6 wounds. His axe is the exact same stat line. His Fleshhound is the exact same stat line. His command ability is exactly the same. His reality splitting axe is exactly the same. The Collar of Corn unbinding spells is exactly the same. We have not had an official release of what his points are going to be, but the rumored points from pretty reliable sources say 200 points for Khorgos Khul. So that is 60 points more than a Mighty Lord of Khorne, and looking at what's actually different here, he's a special character, so you can't take command traits on him, and you cannot take artifacts for him. That's one of the redeeming factors of taking a Mighty Lord of Khorne, is that you can give him a command trait and an artifact if he's your general to give him a little extra oomph on what is otherwise a little bit of a bland hero. So what does this guy have different than your basic Mighty Lord of Khorne, other than he's a unique character, so he's innately worse, like strictly worse with all of the same abilities, and more points. So we have this note here about Khorgos Khul leading the Gortide, and if you take the Gortide battalion, you have to take Khorgos Khul as the leader instead of a Mighty Lord of Khorne. And if he's part of any other battalion, all other Khorne mortal models in the battalion also come from the Gortide. I'm not sure what that last part actually means. Like, if you just get the Gortide battalion bonuses, if he's leading a different battalion, but I don't think that's what it means. I think that's just fluff. The real difference here is the Akshi's Bane ability. And also, I just want to point out, too, is that the reason I think this is just fluff is that that's not in the abilities section. This, if he's taking part of another battalion, all of the other battalions should come from the Gortide. I think that's strictly fluff. It's in the description section. It's not really that meaningful. I think it's like, oh, if you're taking him, you should paint them all in the Gortide colors. Anyway, his real difference, functionally speaking, on the table is this Akshi's Bane ability. So in each of your hero phases, he can pile in up to 8 inches and attack with his axe and with Grizzlemaw, his Fleshhound. And you can re-roll all failed hits for him and Grizzlemaw when you do that. Now, I'm not sure if that re-roll failed hits, again, is only when you make that 8-inch pile-in. Even if it is, re-rolling missed hits on a 3-up is not giving you a huge benefit. So here's the question. Is this worth 60 points? This ability? Being able to pile in your hero phase up to 8 inches. So he basically gets like a free 8-inch charge move in your hero phase. Notice it's not any hero phase. I think if this was any hero phase, this would be a really strong ability, so that if your opponent ever got near him, they were going to get piled in the hero phase. But if you move him up to, near your opponent, and, then it goes to their turn and they double turn you, like, this ability doesn't mean much, and they can easily place their units outside of 8 inches of him so that you don't get to use this ability and it doesn't really mean anything. Is it nice in your hero phase to get extra attacks with him? Yes. How many times per game are you actually going to use this ability where you get extra attacks? Since it's only in your hero phase, not that often. And his attacks are not really super exciting. So I mean, if he was really super hitty, really an aggressive unit, I would say, you know what, that's a great ability to, charge and pile in the hero phase and get some extra whacks in. But I just don't see the utility of this. Maybe, in combination with, I'm forgetting which blood tithe ability it is, but where you get to move in the hero phase. If you move him in the hero phase and then use the 8-inch pile in, maybe you could make something interesting happen with that. But again, like, look at his stat line. Look at your other units that potentially you can move with that ability, and wouldn't you rather move something else? Um, I don't know. I am hard pressed to say that is worth 60 points, and really, considering, as I said before, I think the Mighty Lord of Khorne is really only worth like 120. I mean, is it worth 80 points? I mean, I don't think so. So, unfortunately, I think Khorgos Khul is going to end up kind of hitting the trash can for me. I don't really see this as being overly powerful. Maybe I'm wrong on uh, how some of this works, but I'm inclined to say I don't really think so. And even if, well, let's assume for a second that he always gets to re-roll failed hits in addition to this 8-inch pile-in ability, I still don't think that that's a 60-point ability. So I don't know. I just don't. I'm not excited by this. I'm really disappointed that we got Khorgos Khul and he kind of sucks. Maybe I'm hoping that when we get official points for him, that it's not 200. If it's something less than 200, if it's like maybe 160, maybe he's interesting. If the Mighty Lord of Khorne gets moved down to 120 and Khorgos Khul is 140, now he's really interesting. But a 200-point special character with a bunch of meh abilities, I'm not excited about it, and I think it's really unfortunate. And I was hoping for something better. Thankfully, at least Vandus Hammerhand looks interesting. He's got some interesting things going on. He's basically not just a copy paste of the Lord Celestant's profile. So, at least there it's a more interesting. It just bugs the hell out of me that these guys just went copy paste, add one ability in 60 points, and that's it. I don't like it. You shouldn't like it either. This is dumb and bad, and I don't think Khorgos Khul is ever going to hit the table as Khorgos Khul. He's just always going to be a Mighty Lord of Khorne, and I don't know. I just don't see the utility in doing this at all. And the fact that, now he's getting packaged with a blood secretor as well for, I don't know how much it is, but it's whatever it is way more than you can get this guy for on eBay off of, somebody that bitsed out the starter box. Or just buy half a starter box because you're going to use all of the stuff that's in there anyway. I don't know. It's disappointing. The repack is disappointing. I don't know, guys. I'm not that excited about it. Maybe I missed something. Feel free to drop something down in the comments, as people always do, because I am often wrong. Me being wrong is the number one thing that drives traffic to my comments section. So I thank you all for that. Anyway, that's all I've got on Khorgos Khul. I will be seeing you all later.